Alaska's opposition leader has been hospitalized after suffering an allergic reaction to being poisoned.
Democrats are expressing concern about Joe Biden's age, fearing that he's too young to woo Trump voters.
And as unprecedented heat waves rack the world, we wonder, is climate change to blame for the changing climate?
All this and more on the Beaverton.
Where bad news is good news, and good news is hard to make jokes about.
Let's begin with tonight's top stories. Over the weekend, President Trump lashed out at Maryland Representative Elijah Cummings on Twitter, calling his district, which has a large African-American population, a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess, and a place no human being would want to live. Words that some people might call racist. And by some people, we mean everyone. And by might, we mean should.
Not that it's a surprise. At this point, Trump saying something racist on Twitter is like the Rolling Stones playing Satisfaction. You got to give the fans what they want.
But after Trump's tweets at 4 congresswomen of color, plus his birther stuff with Obama, plus almost everything in between, you gotta wonder, are we stuck in a racist time loop?
I mean, these signs are there. Trump's on a bigoted rampage. Impeachment is going to start any day now. Quentin Tarantino's got a problematic film at the box office. It's the same day over and over and over again.
Between Russian Doll and Chernobyl, I did not expect Russian Doll to be the more realistic show to come out this year.
Now, the only way to break a time loop is to address the bad behavior causing it. So naturally, Trump doubled down, accusing Representative Cummings of being racist. The classic "I know you are, but what am I" defense. Ah, yes, the playground retort, the most presidential piece of rhetoric. Lincoln famously told critics who called him a dictator, "I'm rubber, you're glue."
And who could forget FDR's famous "he who smelt it, dealt it" speech.
Great speech.
He you.
But it wasn't all sunburns and racism for Trump. On Friday, the Supreme Court paved the way for the president to divert funding from the Pentagon to pay for his border wall. It was his second most important campaign promise, after vowing to reopen Studio 54.
Trump, of course, promised that Mexico was going to pay for the wall, but we don't have all the details yet. It's still very possible that money is being diverted from the Mexican Pentagon.
You have to admit, it's refreshing that the party of fiscal responsibility is spending $2.5 billion on something you can climb with $6 worth of rope. But here's something no one is considering. Taking money away from the military-industrial complex for a useless stretch of concrete slabs is a comparatively good waste of money.
Look, we all know the wall will never be built, and now the Pentagon has less money to bomb civilians on the other side of the world. It's win-win. Plus, all that extra construction money is going to be a boon for Trump's friends in Arizona's struggling Sicilian mafia.
So let's thank the Supreme Court. They've set a precedent for future administrations that they can divert military funding and spend it on an actual crisis, like climate change.
That's a good one, Miguel. Like they'd ever let that happen.
Yeah. Turning to Great Britain, where Boris Johnson is the current and likely last Prime Minister. His appointment is seen as a victory for those who prefer a sharp break from the EU or a hard Brexit, and a defeat for those who wanted to maintain close ties, a.k.a. a soft Brexit.
By the way, hard and soft are not words you want to use when talking about Boris Johnson. Thank you. Now that Boris is PM, it seems only right that we apologize for some of the things that we have said in the past that were inaccurate. For instance, we previously said that he trampled a child in 2014, when actually that happened in 2015. We also claimed he looked like a possessed Victorian schoolboy, even though he is clearly Gary Busey at a wedding. Finally, we said he was England's Donald Trump, but he is actually the Donald Trump of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. Our apologies.
Johnson moved quickly, firing over a dozen ministers and replacing them with people willing to support leaving the EU without a deal. The Tory party has basically been taken over by the far right. It's like in Winter Soldier when it turned out Hydra was secretly running S.H.I.E.L.D., only with no Captain America and somehow more Nazis.
But But things aren't all bad for Boris. China has already invited him to visit Hong Kong so he can show the protesters that democracy doesn't work.
Good plan.
We've all had fun at the expense of real news, but sometimes it's easier on our souls to just make it up, which is why it's time for the counterfeit news.
If you live in Canada, you've probably received a robo-text from Sarah asking for your opinion on the Conservative Party. This spam program is the brainchild of the Conservative Party's new campaign head, a Nigerian prince. The Nigerian prince first found success using email to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from tech-impaired old people. Seeing as that is the main conservative demographic, it was a match made in heaven.
In the lead up to the election, the campaign plans to roll out a series of highly effective voter outreach scams. These include pop-up ads for pills that increase the size of your electorate, and an army of sexy online catfish who love pipelines as much as they hate meeting in public. Now, while many Canadians were annoyed by the unsolicited messages, they are thankful that this time at least it wasn't a shirtless selfie from Tony Clement. That's nice. You like to see that.
Maxime Bernier, the answer to the question, what if Donald Trump wasn't rich or famous and had a thick French accent?
The People's Party of Canada leader famously split from the Conservatives over fears they weren't taking immigration seriously enough, which is why last week he revealed a proposal to build a fence on the Canada-U.S. border. Because if municipal pools have taught us anything, it's that fences are impenetrable. And he's not stopping at a fence. Bernier has proposed festooning all of Sault Ste. Marie with motion sensor lights. So if you live there, or you're an irregular border crosser, try not to move around too much after dark. He also plans to keep the poor and huddled masses from crossing the Peace Bridge by putting up a big "Beware of Dog" sign, but not telling anyone there's no dog. But his grandest plan is to hook up the entire Canadian border to Alarm Force. A deal at only $25 a month.
Wow.
That's a deal.
Maxime Bernier, frugal and hateful.
Racist tweets aside, Donald Trump really threw us all for a loop last week by attempting to get rapper A$AP Rocky released from a Swedish prison.
But why did Trump rush to the aid of a young black artist he'd never heard of? Was he lured in by the shiny dollar sign in Rocky's moniker?
Or was it the influence of newly minted prison reform advocate Kim Kardashian West?
It's the latter, and it's the subject of tonight's Point Counterpoint. Is Kim Kardashian America's last hope?
Oh, God, no. Now, you know I love my KKW nude creme lipstick, okay? And sure, profiting off your own sex tape is just good horny business.
Sure.
But Kim, the second prettiest Kardashian, as America's savior, that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
She's not perfect, obviously, but in these dire times, we've got to think outside of reality, like a reality star. Kim may not seem like the hero America needs right now, but damn it, she's the hero it deserves.
Oh, really? A culture vulture who recently tried to trademark the word kimono? Because, I don't know, it has her name in it? I don't know.
Look, Trump barely lifts a finger to get his beloved McMuffin from tray to mouth, but swiftly pardons a life-sentenced prisoner when Kim shoots him a text? She's like the Trump whisperer or something.
Big whoop. She also pees in her Spanx because they aren't crotchless enough.
You try getting 17 first-time nonviolent drug offenders out of jail while you're in full glam. Not gonna happen.
Come on, Miguel. It's all just a urine-soaked PR stunt, okay? She decided she wants to be a lawyer like Daddy, and she chose a spicy issue like prison reform as her sexy way in.
Okay, regardless, she's highlighting a real systemic problem and making significant changes.
Okay.
And even if you don't buy her advocacy at all,
Yeah.
you have to admit, celebrity is the only thing that can influence this government. That's why we need her.
Okay. And I guess the only way to neutralize Trump is with a sexy female Trump?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And doesn't a Kardashian run America sound better than the current one?
Well,
Yes.
we'd all have big, juicy butts and so many children.
Kim, if you're watching this, and I know that you are,
We know you're watching this, Kim.
keep up the great work. Get A$AP Rocky out of jail. Hell, get rid of mandatory minimums.
Yeah, and don't stop there. Get rid of the Electoral College. Start a lobbying firm with Bieber to get those kids out of cages. Thank you. Also, maybe put a pee-pee hole in your Spanx. You know what I'm saying?
Why was that the last one?
Well, it matters.
When we come back, Robert Mueller expresses frustration that everyone's focusing on his testimony and not his upcoming rap album. Faced with dropping poll numbers, Tory leader Andrew Scheer has taken the logical step to win seats in Ontario, locking Premier Doug Ford in a soundproof bunker. Yeah. Scheer lured Ford to the bunker by telling him there was a dead body down there he could poke with a stick. But Ford has adjusted well. He spends his days stacking $1 beers, putting anti-carbon tax stickers on the generator, and teaching a reduced sex ed curriculum to the rats in the wall. The Liberals have naturally condemned Scheer's handling of Ford, but the NDP do not seem to object. Many New Democrats have even called Scheer and asked if there's room down there for Jagmeet Singh.
On-screen diversity is on the rise in Hollywood, making it one of the only areas in which the world may not be going to hell.
Which is why Marvel fans were thrilled to hear about the new blockbuster superhero movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Little did we know the star of the film would be from our very own sleepy lakeside town of Toronto. It's our great honor today to welcome to the show the Marvel Cinematic Universe's newest leading man, Simu Liu. Simu, Marvel has been at the forefront of an important advancement in modern cinema, representative casting. So how does it feel to be a part of that?
Emma, ever since I was a small Jack child, I knew I always wanted to be a superhero, but I never saw anybody like me on screen. It feels great to finally represent my people on the big stage.
Asian
Canadians.
People. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you just say Canadians?
That's right. I'm the very first Canadian lead of their very own Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Maybe even any film. I haven't checked.
Maybe you should check.
And yes, the MCU has done an amazing job representing people like me in smaller roles, your Rachel McAdamses, your Kobe Smolder, but this is the first time a Canadian is taking top billing. And now, a little girl in Montreal or some other backwater will be able to see herself on screen because of me.
Now, obviously, Black Panther and Captain Marvel were important for on-screen diversity, but how necessary is it for Canadians to be depicted as superheroes?
Oh, absolutely necessary. American heroes always rush into conflict head first, but where's that classic Canadian passive aggression?
You know, that's true. You never saw the Hulk just dismantle Thanos with a single cutting remark at Christmas dinner. You don't see that.
Exactly. A Canadian superhero should stop crime the old-fashioned way, by using their martial arts prowess to save New York by creating an unstoppable socialized healthcare system.
Weirdly, that seems more far-fetched than the plot of Avengers Endgame.
And Shang-Chi doesn't have any crazy gadgets like Tony Stark or Spider-Man. Just like any other Canadian, he gets by with a simple $70 a month cell phone plan.
Is there a scene where he pays data overages?
Emma, there's 3 of them.
I have never felt more seen.
And here's another benefit of diversity. It's profitable. If Shang-Chi performs well, it can help pave the way for more superhero projects about other Canadians.
Wow, are they finally going to cast a Canadian to play Wolverine?
I'm not familiar with that title.
So, what are we talking here?
Well, they are looking for someone to play the new Batgirl.
Really? Who's it going to be?
Well, apparently it's down to 2 of Canada's best performers, Sandra Oh and Michael Cera.
Wow. So I guess there actually is a benefit to having major Hollywood studios put Canadians firmly in the cultural conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I truly believe that one day there could even be a Canadian Captain America.
You mean Captain Canuck?
No.
Simu Liu, everyone. When we come back, citing safety concerns, Boeing is considering replacing their 737s with hydrogen blimps.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. We turn now to the story that's been freaking everyone out all summer, Iran.
It's safe to say the global mood is tense. War seems like it's just around the corner, and not a fun destination war like Grenada.
Despite daily coverage, questions remain. Why is this happening, and why now? What do any of the principal players hope to gain? If there's a nuclear winter, will that balance out climate change?
It's time to take a deep dive on Iran, the little country that could spark a global conflict. First things first, a little context. Miguel, would you do the honors?
I would love to. Flashback to 1953. The U.S. and Britain stage a coup against Iran's democratically elected leader.
Okay, that's a little bit too far, pal. Can you know what I mean?
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Flashback to a few weeks ago. Iran enriches uranium in defiance of a 2015 agreement, cementing their reputation as the bad boy of nuclear disarmament. Now, that may seem like a provocation, and it is. But it's also important to note that this happened.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
That is Donald Trump in 2018 pulling out of the same agreement Iran is currently defying. In fairness to Trump, if these were your kids, you'd think pulling out was a solid plan, too. Ever since the U.S. has imposed crippling sanctions on Iran, drastically limiting their oil exports, creating inflation, and driving up prices to Whole Foods levels.
Dear God. Now, if you're Iran at this point, you have to be thinking, what's a country got to do to get a little respect around here? Murder a journalist? Which is why they resorted to fine. If we can't ship oil through the Strait of Hormuz, nobody can. From there, it's your typical tit for tat. Iran seizes a ship, the U.S. shoots down a drone. Iran arrests a bunch of CIA spies, then brings the U.K. in on all of this by capturing a British oil tanker in the most terrifying game of geopolitical battleship since the Suez Canal.
And now we're on the brink of what exactly? War? Here's Trump on Iran.
Right now, they're a very mixed-up country. They have tremendous problems economically. They lie a lot. Their country's in turmoil. They have a lot of problems. I'm just going to sit back and wait. Let's see what happens.
Literally any of those comments can apply to the United States. Right? But that doesn't sound like a man itching for a war.
It's also pretty hard to imagine the UK wants a fight, mostly because they just put this guy in charge.
I say to all the doubters, dude, we are going to energize the country.
Here's the thing. If these two dingle-dongles get together, there's no telling what kind of conflict they might bumble into. Best case scenario, they steal a pie off a windowsill. Worst case, total global war, especially since Iran is an ally of Russia.
So Russia's in Iran's corner, the U.S. is in Saudi Arabia's, and the U.K. is just trying not to sink into the English Channel. Nobody wants a war, but the powers that be might not be smart enough to stop one. It's like a bizarro Cuban Missile Crisis, minus the legendary sexiness of the world leader at the center of it all.
What a fox. But look, at the end of the day, there's a clear way to de-escalate tension. Sadly, in order to go that route, you'd need some kind of binding multilateral nuclear agreement.
Later tonight, Canada attempts to defuse the situation with Iran with the least controversial way of transporting oil, pipelines. Welcome back. These days, there are a lot of myths out there about health and wellness, like how certain crystals have healing properties, or how it's good for you to drink water.
Wait, you don't drink water?
No. Fortunately, the Beaverton is here to dispel these myths in a segment we call Wealth and Hellness. For years, it's been accepted that walking 10,000 steps a day is critical for good health. But according to a recent study, that number is totally arbitrary. Turns out, and this is completely true, it was chosen by a Japanese marketing firm who thought the numeral for 10,000 kind of looked like a walking man. Meh, I guess. Now, unlike other wellness myths, like brushing your teeth with activated charcoal or anything involving the phrase power washing your colon, there's no harm in getting 10,000 steps. But the idea of 10,000 steps has turned products like the Fitbit into multi-million-dollar industries, even though it has no basis in science.
Makes you wonder what other things people are blindly accepting as fact. What's next? Finding out that Malcolm Gladwell's theory about it taking 10,000 hours to become an expert isn't true?
It isn't true.
But he writes for The New Yorker. The New Yorker, Emma.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I've been using an arbitrary number as a measuring stick.
For what?
Everything. 10,000 reps at the gym, 10,000 calories a day, 10,000 chews.
You chew your food 10,000 times?
Of course, it makes digestion a breeze. But eating a hateful chore. What are you going to tell me next? That the band 10,000 Maniacs is bad?
I would never tell you that. But I am telling you to think critically, because the wellness industry has a financial incentive to keep you misinformed. In our next installment of Wealth and Hellness, can a simple bowl cure you of all your worldly ills? It's from Chapters Indigo. It's $3,000. I already bought it, and yes.
Well, that's all for tonight's show. Join us next week where we'll discuss how Hong Kong's pro-democracy protests have the world asking, why don't they just let Russia decide like the rest of us?
See you then.
We'll keep faster. Get to the end of the next cycle.